Welcome back to the Peggy Smedley Show, the podcasting voice of IoT and digital transformation.
Welcome back to the Peggy Smedley Show. We are coming to you live from Liveworx in Boston. It's been a great morning of a lot of great guests, and we are continuing now with Jeff Hojlo. He is the Program Director and Product Innovation Strategies for IDC Manufacturing Insights. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Peggy. Great to be with you again.
Yeah.
We first met at CES a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
so
it's
nice
great to have you on the show. So we've got a lot to talk about. You know, there's never anything dull when we're here at PTC's Liveworx. They've got a lot going on. So you were speaking this morning, right? What did you have? You were in a session?
Yeah, I was the digital engineering presenter, or one of them, at 9 o'clock today, along with Johannes Keller from Bosch Rexroth, industrial machinery provider, and Bertrand Dudiel, I think I got that right, French boat maker. If you see their boat, actually, I'm looking at it right now. That looks fantastic. I'd love to take that out on Boston Harbor here.
I think everybody would, right?
Aren't we? Right?
Yeah,
Isn't that the plan? I don't know.
I don't know. It should be. I think, if we are here, we should all get to be on that boat. I mean, if there's a boat in the hall, we should all get to go on it, right?
Exactly.
But let's talk about what's going on with how engineering has evolved. There's so much since the last time we've talked. I mean, when I think about all the things that are on this show floor, it's amazing to me, right? I mean, the advent of just these new technologies, right, are just impressive. I mean, we think about boats, right? I mean, we just think about the things that are on the show floor. I mean, when you think about that, it's impressive, right?
It is. And it's really evolving and changing the way that design and engineering and R&D is done in organizations, and also the role that those people who work in those areas and those domains take throughout the organization. So, it's no longer these third platform technologies, as we call them. So third platform being cloud, mobile, big data analytics, social business, IoT, AR, VR, 3D printing, cognitive systems, everything that's being discussed here today. These are the enabling kind of service-driven, if you will, technologies that you can tap into when you need to, that really complement and accelerate the investments that many companies have already made in second platform, which are enterprise applications like PLM, like MES, supply chain management systems, right? Those aren't going away, but how do you interconnect those systems and also those domains and processes together so that the team can be working together, not just in a work group function, whether you're engineering, R&D, sales and marketing, or manufacturing, but how do you unify information on a platform approach so that these teams can work cohesively together? So that's really what third platform technologies and what digital transformation means, right? It's leveraging information, moving to a platform approach to increase innovation rate, the way innovation's done, take an evidence-based approach to design, engineering, product development, service delivery, right? You're making decisions based on fact, based on performance, based on customer feedback, and then all of that leverages third platform technologies. Those are really the enabling forces. So
it's kind of interesting to see how digital transformation is taking shape, right? I mean, because people have really wanted to understand what digital transformation meant. Yep. And Jim did a really great job of really helping define it, to put it into a little bit more perspective. And now, now we're talking about this now, generative design. We're really talking about and why it's important to manufacturing. And now we're really starting to really help companies and manufacturers really understand what they have to do next, right? Right, exactly.
So I mean, new initiatives like generative design, let's call it an initiative, is really the confluence of a few of the technologies I mentioned, right? It's a confluence of IoT, the connectivity of products, of AI and machine learning, as well as analytics, right? And what generative design enables essentially is design engineers, R&D people to make better decisions at a front end of innovation, right? So you have your requirements, you have your customer needs, you have time to market goals, whatever the goals are and the requirements are, AI and machine learning applied to all that information will provide designers options for slight variances in the way that a product is designed or made, whether it be different materials, whether it be the look and feel of that, or whether it be manufacturing approach, whether it's 3D printing or 5-axis machine milled, right? So that's the idea of what generative design can take. The reality of today is that generative design approach is very focused on topology optimization, which is not necessarily a new approach for engineers, where it's looking at a part or a system of parts working together and trying to lightweight those parts, trying to find new designs and new approaches to how those parts are made. So optimizing the topology of those so that efficiencies can be gained. That's kind of the first step. There's a lot of potential though in that AI, kind of big data driven, AI driven new approach to design and engineering that hasn't been realized yet.
Aren't we starting to get to a point where we are trying to get all of this to make it interconnected? I mean, when we talk about it, we've now said, look, how do we get everything so connected that we can put it all together, interpret it, and so we can make better decisions, whatever it might be, whether it's generative, whether it's all of these digital worlds that we're talking about. We want to be able to make the best decisions on the factory floor, wherever it might be.
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the IDC definition of digital transformation is all about using information and knowledge to make better decisions, leveraging digital technologies, right? And that's what it's all about. So generative design is one example of that, but that generative notion, if you will, that kind of AI-driven knowledge decision-making, power decision-making, can be applied to a number of areas across business. So I mentioned that that area is really expanding, or has an opportunity to expand to encompass not only design requirements and customer requirements, but a lot of other business-oriented information that will enable even better decisions, whether it's supply chain manufacturing or market data, competitive data, right? The only limitation is how you define the data model that supports the process.
So now when I hear you say that, I think there's still a lot of confusion though when you start talking about generative design. Is there not? I mean, because I think when you start saying all that, I mean, because when I hear people talk, I don't think everybody has their hands really around it, right? I think, or their arms, I should say, around it all. I think there's different varying definitions of what it might be in the market.
Yeah, and I think, I guess I'm an analyst, so I'll think in terms of maturity curves, right? I guess if you think of
maturity curves or hockey curves, I don't know, or both.
I'll call it a maturity curve. But generative design, step one is in generative design is kind of a layer, an umbrella term on top of AI-driven knowledge decision making in engineering and design. And I think topology optimization is step one with that. Is just having different options presented to you at an early stage of innovation. As you move up that maturity curve, you can begin to build out the data model that you use to enable engineering and product development over time. So you can imagine that an early stage you're looking at material options or costing options or different suppliers you could work with based on past performance. Market and competitive data. Is the market, is this particular geography an area that looks like it's poised for growth or has interest in this particular technology? Is my competition offering like technology? All of that is sort of, I think, as you move up that maturity curve, that's really the aspirational state of AI-driven knowledge decision making across the engineering process and manufacturing as well. So I think people immediately go to, it sounds like people jump to what it could be, which is what I just painted, versus taking incremental steps like topology optimization, and then maybe the next step is adding costing and supplier information to enhance your decision making, and then go from there.
Do we have any successful examples of any of these implementations or what we're doing? Because everything we talk about seems like we're saying it's not sometimes as positive, but do we have successful examples that we can lean to?
Yeah, there are a couple I can think of. One is GM in, I think, I can't remember the model of their car, but they lightweighted a seat bracket in the car, and the cost and fuel savings that they projected just from lightweighting that one part was tremendous. So again, it's very topology optimization, weight reduction focused. Along the same lines, Airbus is another example where they had a mesh approach and design to lightweight a partition on a plane between first class and coach. Basically the divider between the two sections of a plane. The other is there are other examples out there that I can think of, and I'm trying to think of the name of the company. Hackrod is one that is basically kind of building off what Local Motors has done in the automotive space of crowdsourced design and engineering of vehicles. But I think what one step further that they've gone is to actually begin to leverage generative design to take all of the requirements that customers provide them and produce generatively designed and actually 3D printed vehicles. So it's a little bit like, again, what Local Motors was doing, but it's more of an advanced kind of, I guess, more in the research phases right now. I don't think they've actually gone to market, but that's another example I can think of as well.
Let's talk about some of the trends, because we've talked about people, processes, technology. Everybody's talking about that, the digital thread. We're talking about digital transformation. Are there real key trends? We just talked about generative design. Are there other key trends that you see that are driving manufacturing forward to a successful, pathway?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think of the trends in maybe three key areas. We've talked about this move to being more interconnected, and companies moving to an innovation platform approach to design, development, and product launch. So the companies for the past, at least large companies for the past 5+ years, have been working furiously to unify their information and move to a cloud-based approach to development, where the global team where engineers and designers can actually work more effectively with manufacturing at an early stage of design to rectify quality issues as they come up, to even be more involved, have manufacturing more involved with innovation, right? So that platform approach, just taking the engineering and manufacturing connection and closed loop, is actually changing the role of manufacturing in an organization to be more strategic, right? I actually had a piece of research I did, actually about 2 years ago now, but it was focused on the front end of innovation and ideation. And the idea was, it was a best practice report on what are the 5 best practice approaches to ideation and innovation management. And it came up again and again, and that was get manufacturing involved very, very early in design and development as well. So I think that's really changed the role quite a bit. The other two areas are around, I think, the automation that's happening in the market today, and this gets into the use of analytics and machine learning and what we're talking about on the generative side of things. But let's just take analytics, taking information and from product, from supply chain, from service, from manufacturing, and surfacing that in a single tool and applying analytics to it for the development team, versus taking kind of a work group centric or a process centric approach to analytics, which I think is the norm at many companies today, right? There are development process analytics to support within PLM systems, for example. There are quality systems that have analytics that look at, there are MES systems that look at manufacturing execution, performance. But I think the opportunity is to bring all that information and present it in a single tool. And you see, there actually Calypso, just as an example, services company, works pretty closely with PTC, and they have an offering called Product Lifecycle Intelligence, right? And just as an example, and there are other, I think, services companies involved with that. But I think you'll see that area evolve quite a bit, just to again enhance decision making, rapid, accurate decision making. That is the promise of digital transformation.
When we look at analytics, do manufacturers, are they really interpreting the data like they should, or are they still lacking some of that right now. We've got to get them closer to the data.
Yeah, I think that most companies don't have a clear view into information that helps them make decisions along a number of different fronts. One is to enable better portfolio analysis of the products and services you bring to market, right? That executives might want to have. Quality analysis of products in the field and how they're performing, manufacturing processes, customer experiences, and the feedback you might get from customers. That's another area of analysis. And then specific situations that come up, maybe challenges with products that quality issues come up and the product isn't performing as well as it should be, or customer complains. How do you respond more quickly to that? So I think it's being able to take information along a number of different fronts in the organization to support the different roles. I don't think that unified approach to analytics is really in place yet.
Let's shift a little bit, talk about how executives should kind of look at PLM of, kind of smart connected strategies. Are we doing that? Because Jim talked a little bit about that, kind of bringing all together, kind of actually going a little bit about how that's really going to play a critical role going forward.
Yeah, I love Jim's quote that PLM and CAD/CAM CAE are in style, I think was his quote.
Yeah.
And I tweeted out, I'm happy to see that they're cool and things are good. The other quote I liked that he had yesterday was, if you work around the PLM space, you should ask your boss for a raise tomorrow, right? So
everybody's asking for raises today.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think for a while in the PLM space market, companies, I forgot about is maybe a little bit too strong, but I think maybe looked at advanced technologies, digital technologies, IoT, AR, VR, and there's the next shiny new technology. Let's focus on that. And I think organizations, manufacturers, looked at those areas and maybe forgot about the fact that you're creating all this information on these connected products. What do you do with that information, and where do you present that to take action on it, right? And I think the answer is in part PLM. There are other systems as well, ERP for costing and material information, for business process information, as well as supply chain systems for supplier information. There's a lot of information where you can leverage the connected information that exists out there in processes and products and bring that back into the organization. So I think that's what's happening now, is from a PLM perspective, people are looking at product, as a central point of a connected IoT-driven strategy or a digital strategy. It has to come back. You have to create these technologies, enable closed loops to be actually created, right? It actually we can actually say that the product life cycle it can be a closed loop now and can be managed in that fashion versus a life cycle is circling back, right? And you're constantly improving. That's what product life cycle is. But until the past couple of years, we really haven't been at the point where we can realize that closed loop. It's been more sort of launch product services, maybe get some feedback, maybe leverage it a little bit here and there, but not really taking that, as I said, evidence-based approach to how you're bringing products to market and what services and products you're bringing to market, right? Just enables better decision making.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I've been asking this question because I think it's important. Are there disruptive technologies for manufacturing right now that they should be looking at or that you're seeing that's important?
A couple areas. I think digital twins is one area, which digital twins being the virtual replica of a product or an asset with information from requirements from the functions within that product and asset to, it could be suppliers you worked with to produce that product, could be the performance of those products and assets. Again, as I was saying before about generative, the limitation is really how you build the data model to support the digital twin. And digital twins can be used on a lightweight fashion for early stage ideation and collaboration. between engineering, manufacturing, customers, sales and marketing, up to a complex, data-rich model which can be used to operate products and assets. We're seeing a lot of traction in asset-intensive industries like oil and gas and utilities, and where there are a lot of assets within a plant that need to function effectively over time and really be managed and operated in almost a mission control approach.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of NASA and kind of looking at, so we're seeing these companies embed simulation in their models, which aren't always fancy 3D models. Sometimes they're 2D schematics of a plant, but they have the ability to run simulations of of production before you actually go into producing a new product or going into a new phase of output. So I think that's one technology that definitely is advancing the productivity and performance of manufacturing. The other is AR. I think AR VR will VR in there as well. But let's maybe focus on AR. And I was talking with a colleague earlier, an end user manufacturer, and he was saying, AR just frees up the hands of, or has the potential of freeing up the hands of our manufacturing workers, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Presenting information to them so that they can be more productive, right? Which is at the end of the day, what's manufacturing? Manufacturing's goal is to maintain a high level of quality. It's to maintain a high level of productivity, right? So if you can free up their hands and serve information to them when they need it, and proactively and even predictively.
Imagine that, right? Just imagine that.
Definitely, and make it easy enough to adopt and use. I'm not saying AR.
And upskilling, right? We're upskilling in a whole new way sometimes with those. Well, I have to tell you, I loved it. All right, so there you have Jeff Hojlo. He's the Program Director and Product Innovation Strategies at IDC. Thank you so much for spending time.
Thanks, Peggy.
All right, well, we are going to take a break, but we are going to be back at 2:30 Central. Guess who we're going to be back with? We are going to be back with Jim Heppelman, the CEO and President of, you got it, PTC, and I'm pretty stoked about having him here. So I hope you will see you then, and you will be back here so we can talk to him, and maybe we'll get even more scoop about what he sees in this whole digital transformation. All right, so thanks for watching us live streaming here. Remember to tweet at us at ConnectedWMag. This is the Peggy Smedley Show, podcasting voice of IoT and digital transformation. And remember, with great technology comes great responsibility. We'll see you here at 2:30 Central.